It is September 5th, 2024. It is 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 California time. It's the Worldview Financial Report, joined by the Bad News Bears, Wes Peters and Mike Weiner. Tonight, let's talk about this. Here we go. Trump vows to cut business tax rate to 15%, create government efficiency commission led by Elon Musk. Also tonight, Powell announces a pivot, Jim Rickards' article. We'll talk about this right here, then we'll play this video. Gold between 2,700 to 3,000. That's one prediction being made. Selling frenzy, you don't need unrealized gains tax. Just lifting capital gains tax will unleash hell. ADP, the employment report, weakest since January of 2021. Celebrity real estate agent gives reality check on housing. We are not going to see prices go down. And Chase Bank issues fraud warning after ATM glitch videos spread online. To get to all of this, we are going to have to keep the jokes and stories to a minimum tonight. Mr. Bears, can we do that?
To help.
Absolutely. I'm in.
We're
All right.
helpers. We're
All right.
Strictly business.
All right,
We're
here we go.
helpers today.
Yeah. That's right. All right, help me out, boys. Here we go. Trump vows to cut business tax rate to 15%, create government efficiency commission led by Elon. Let's listen to what Donald had to say about this today, folks. We got the video. Here it is, ready to go. The player. Here we go. What is wrong with these players at Fox? Look how the knob moves when you move it. Look at all that. What is all that about, Fox? Why do you do that? Why can't you just have a straight player with all this foolishness? Come on, Fox. Here we go.
Instead of attacking industries of the future, we will embrace them, including making America the world capital for crypto and Bitcoin. Fourth, at the suggestion of Elon Musk, who has given me his complete and total endorsement. That's nice, 'cause he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. It's very, very much appreciated. I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it. Can't go on the way we are now. And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force. Be interesting. If he has the time, that'd be a good one to do it. But he's agreed to do it. In 2022, fraud and improper payments alone cost taxpayers an estimated hundreds of billions of dollars. To further support the revival of American manufacturing, my plan calls for expanded R&D tax credits, 100% bonus depreciation, expensing for new manufacturing investments, and a reduction in the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15% solely for companies that make their product in America.
That's excellent. Is it just me, or does he look tired? I think this guy's getting tired.
Possibly. I would be tired if I were him.
Yeah.
I would be sick and tired.
Yeah.
Well,
He had a seriousness today. I mean, he did joke a little bit there, but seriously, look at his face, his facial reaction. This guy is carrying the weight of the world, and well, he would be, obviously. But yeah, I sense a seriousness again in him that I haven't seen in a long time since he was the assassination attempt. But you watch the last few minutes of that video. Let me go back to it. Watch his face.
And a reduction in the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15% solely for companies that make their product in America.
And this is a guy that's got a lot on his mind, and well, he should. Go ahead, Wes.
yeah, I watched some of it today. He was a lot more somber.
Yes, he was.
Actually to the point, and was on topic and laying out his agenda and what he would do. So that was nice. Different than the Trump rallies, just to hear what his game plan is. And he wants to lower the corporate tax rate to 15%. I think Kamala wants to take it up to 28%. And what this country needs is it needs smaller government, it needs less regulation, it needs our southern border closed, and lower taxes. Because if people have more money in their pocket, in their bank account, they're going to get out in the economy and they're going to spend that money. And that's exactly what we need. And the last thing we need is what Kamala Harris is proposing, because that's going to lead to people fleeing the markets. We've got an article talking about that. But, hopefully Trump can pull it off in November, and he can actually get in the White House. They don't try and find some finagled way to keep him out. They're already starting up their Russia talk again. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. What are your thoughts, Michael? And I think you also have a warning you want to put out to our audience tonight, right? I don't know if we want to name names. I want to be careful about that. I don't want to burn bridges with people, but
I'm not interested in names, but let me make a quick answer to what Wes went into. I believe setting stuff up to the universe is important. So I think Trump's going to win. I think he's going to get into office, and it's going to be a battle getting in. I think they're going to put every obstacle they can after he wins in his place, but I think he'll overcome because he knows how to. These people are not smart. They're devious. So when you're smart, you can be devious, but it's going to be a battle. I think that what we're talking about right here, what Trump is talking about, giving a 15% tax break, but also to companies that are in this country, bring construction, bring manufacturing, bring jobs back into this country, not sending business outside this country and filling the coffers up of our allies who are actually our financial enemies. Allies that are financial enemies and our enemies who are financial enemies. They don't care about us. They bilk us and we sit back and swallow. The only time they got a whip in a chair was when Donald Trump got into office and stuck it to him. And that's when China stepped up and realized we better follow the yellow brick road. So we need this type of situation. And I agree with him with Elon Musk. This country spends and wastes a fortune. And bringing a guy like Musk in, who is a whipper and a guy who'll go in there and say the truth, is what we need. And I think it's a great idea, and I commend him for it. And I'm hoping that that is what occurs. As my announcement, my little statement right now, my warning to people is please do not listen to companies that call you up after you buy gold and tell you, well, that gold you bought isn't good gold. You need to buy our gold. Excuse me, do you understand what the word churning is? That's selling out and buying the same thing. So sell the gold you bought because it's not any good gold and you don't need it, and buy this other gold. That's better because they're selling it to you.
And what you're telling me is there is a company that's doing that to some of our people, some of my viewers. Is that right?
That's correct. And that is wrong. If you don't want to buy gold from our company, don't. But don't buy gold and then buy it again, because what are you accomplishing? That's absolutely wrong and dangerous.
Well, and I think they're being taken advantage of, is what it sounds like.
Exactly. So my warning is when you get these calls from people who tell you this, your gold is no good, excuse me. I've been in this. I said to one guy today, one guy, put a gal, that take all the people in there. We can fit them in our parking lot. And more importantly, I forgot more than all of them know put together. OK, but one thing I do know, you don't tell somebody to sell out something that is exactly what they're buying and that they're gaining something. They're losing and paying commissions all over again.
That's what it's about, trying to get people to sell out, buy from them so they can have a 25, 30, 40% commission rate or higher. Wes?
Yeah, just to add to that, Brandon. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what you bought. No matter what you tell them what you bought, it's the wrong thing. Oh, you should have bought this, So, and another thing I'd like to say is to all of our clients out there is you're free to sell your gold and silver to anybody. If there's a local place that you don't want to ship it in and you want to sell it, before you sell an ounce of gold or silver to anyone, you need to call us and find out what we would pay you. And I promise you, you'll be packaging it up and shipping it to us so we can buy it back from you. We've had a few cases over all these years where I'll call someone to follow up with them, give them an update on their account, what's going on in the markets, where we see things going. And they'll be, oh, well, Wes, we sold our gold and silver. We got in a position we had to sell it. We sold it 6 months ago. And find out what they received for it. I mean, I remember one gentleman said, yeah, I've got, just in here in my file, I've got the the receipt from them, what I sold them and what they paid me, and he went and got it. And we would have paid them about $300 more per coin than what they received at this local.
$300 per coin.
Per coin. Correct. So
Sure.
again, you can sell it wherever you want. Well, when you buy from us, we don't make another dime. We'll never make another dime. So whether you hold that metal or sell it, it doesn't matter to us. We just want you to do the right thing and what's best for you. If you're going to sell it somewhere else, call us first to find out what we would pay you.
All right, let's go to the next one. Powell announces pivot. Labor Day weekend is over and the election is just over 2 months away. Is the U.S. economy in a recession as election season enters full swing? There's a mountain of data suggesting the answer is yes. Or if we're not in a recession, we soon will be. We'll explore this data below, but let's begin with the supposedly most powerful force in the U.S. economy, the Federal Reserve. On August 23rd, Chair Jay Powell gave an address to the annual Federal Reserve Conference held at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. This was one of Powell's most important speeches ever for two reasons. First, he not only pivoted to interest rate cuts after Wall Street having been wrong about the pivot timing for 2 years, but significantly, he pivoted from concern about inflation to concern about unemployment. The latter pivot is much more troubling because it signals that a recession is upon us and the Fed may be too late as usual to do anything about it. And there you go. You want to comment on that, Michael?
Yeah, I've got a book here that I keep referring to, written by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Franz Pick, who was one of the people who went to Nixon to get gold legalized again, one of the founders of New York Commodity Exchange, one of the people Eisenhower hired in the late 40s to help with the reclassification of currencies and countries. He wrote a book called The Triumph of Gold, and this is almost 50 years ago. Here's one little sentence, one little paragraph about the Federal Reserve. Whether or not he is aware of the incidents affecting the lives and fortunes of his peers in the current history is well known a fact that the current head of the Federal Reserve does not appear in public or travel anywhere without an escort of services of bodyguards. Why are we paying for them? As for the present Secretary of Treasury, his permanent entourage includes a platoon of agents as assigned to protect his life and limbs. The 20th century America can be as violent as during the French Revolution, but the Federal Reserve is an entity that you can't even look up in the phone book. This is 1980, it's really cool. You know, the reality is this guy is pivoting. He pivoted to raise rates, now he's pivoting to lower rates, and the bottom line result will be a recession no matter what they say. We're already in the beginnings of it. And their solution is appeasing things politically. They know right now that they need a lower interest rates to make people happy, the American people that want to buy houses or buy a car. But whatever we're saving today, gents and ladies, we will pay the dues for later. But they don't care. They know it makes the Democrats look better to lower rates, so they'll pivot. And they'll pivot again, and we'll probably be pivoting all the way to the beginning of the year and maybe take up a 1 to 1.5 to maybe 2% reductions. Not any good.
All right, let's go right away to the next video for the sake of time. Here we go. Watch this, guys.
Trajectories here on gold. So pulling from the LBMA database here, you know, we looked over the past, how many years is this? 50 years, 55 years now. You know, we've seen about an 8.2% CAGR over the long haul from where we started to where we're at now. This is expressed in US dollars. Here's a similar chart, a little bit shorter time frame on euro-based, a little bit steeper slope, a little bit more linear too, I might add, closer to 11% CAGR. So gold obviously appreciating. And I want to get into with you, Joe, on what's driving the market in the near term. I want to make this very much a tactical discussion. And I jotted down just a few obvious points, I think, and please feel free to add to this. But the weaker U.S. dollar is part of the mix. Expectation on what the Fed's going to do in the middle of September in its next meeting, and especially in light of some of the job market reports. Central bank buying, which to me it seems to be about 2x our kind of long-term baseline. So we're still seeing strong central bank buying. And then, of course, all the geopolitical tensions, which we could rattle on about. But these, to me, are kind of the key core issues driving the market in the near term. Do you see any corrections or missing items here?
No, I think what you've got are all the key elements of what's making up a really, really amazing picture for the gold market. And I think where we would start with the discussion would be to give a little bit of a precursor to these points. The points are correct. They're actually accurate. But we would remind everyone that gold is a global asset. And what we would remind them of is that consumption is in the form of jewelry, investment, central bank demand, and then technology. And from there, you can start unpacking these different factors that are at play. Your first point around a weaker dollar and second point around where those monetary policies in the West are going to develop, you're absolutely right. Those have been headwinds on the price of gold because it's kept Western investors on the fence, holding allocations where they have been, but they haven't made new allocations. If you look at what's happened in the ETF space, you hear a lot of noise, as an example, around people, redemptions in this market, everything's going in the wrong direction, but the price and the assets are still holding firm. They're outpacing the growth of the redemption pace. So they're still holding their allocations, but they haven't allocated new because of opportunity cost for other assets. Gold's expensive to hold when you can get 5% on your cash. But the big story I think you've hit on, central bank buying, is pretty amazing and it's pretty fundamental. Now we're at 14-year highs and record-setting years in 22 and near record-setting years 23, and a first half that looks extremely strong, slowing a bit, particularly from China. But at the basis of all of that is concerns around dollar-based assets, the future of the dollar, their own homegrown inflationary concerns, and a need for a liquid instrument that they can use in a time of financial need. And that's actually what's been driving particularly emerging market central banks. And they've done a lot over the last 3 years in terms of the pace. I think you're averaging out the right kind of levels, but I mean, the pace has been substantially higher. And again, record setting over those last 2 years. And then the last point you bring up, which is geopolitical tensions, that comes and goes. It's kind of like the unknown unknowns. Those are kind of the flare-ups in the market. We just had a moment in the markets on August 5th when we saw risk assets coming off an unwind of a yen trade, basically really put a lot of pressure on risk assets, and gold did exactly what it was supposed to do. Now, it didn't necessarily lead to a lot of consumption, but it reassured Western investors, Eastern investors, that they basically got the right kind of diversifier in their portfolio.
Right. No, and obviously something's up when you look at the numbers in 2024 year to date. My goodness, what a tear that we're on here, whether you're talking US dollar based, euro based, or British pound based, some substantial gains throughout the year. And it looks like it all kicked in right at the beginning of March is where
it sure did. We had a pretty average January. We had a pretty average February. I think when the Western markets, and actually a combination of the Western markets and Eastern investors, this is probably the most interesting soundbite that's not necessarily getting as much attention, particularly in the US, as maybe it should, is that the Eastern investor, China, India, and Southeast Asia, they have been adding gold as part of a component of their portfolio. Now that shows up in our OTC demand and somewhat in our bars and coin demand that you see in our reports. But in that number are people allocating in a place like China to gold. And remember, the ETF market's seen its best year in Asia, about a $3+ billion inflow when everything else is a down market and everyone's talking about outflows. China and India are just mopping up assets. Japan, highest level of AUM and ETFs that we've had ever in that market. And at the end of the day, it's basically looking at a real estate market, for example, in China that's struggling, equity markets that are quite volatile. And again, concerns around inflationary pressures in those markets, and people are allocating gold as a diversifier. And again, also about this risk of devaluation of currencies. And Matt, you raise a really good point about the dollar. It's the first point on your chart that you put up around things that are driving the gold price. I think that's a lot that's on people's mind right now. The question of what direction will the dollar go over time? How will the administration that will get elected in November of this year, which is probably something to add to point 4, which is the political landscape. But ultimately, what's going to be the direction of that dollar? How's it going to play out? And actually, is it going to weaken? Is there going to be a way for the U.S. to deal with its concerns with debt and debt sustainability? And can they maintain a strong dollar when we know that there's lots of pressure on it? This is on the mind of all central bankers, but it's also on the mind of Western investors.
Wow. All right, Michael, your thoughts on that, Michael Weiner?
You got it first here. Most of that stuff, the Bad News Bears brought to you over the last many months about the stuff that's going on here right now and the prediction between 2,800 and 3,000, which I said several months ago. Gold is becoming, for the first time in 75 years, prior to 1971, a financial asset handled by governments around the world. And that is huge because in other words, gold, ladies and gentlemen, is becoming money. And people don't trust our dollar. They're not in love with China, but they are in love with gold and the stability of gold and what gold can offer them. So it gets down to how to own it and what type of gold to own and all the rest, which Brandon and I talk about numismatic. But again, out of the book of one of the greatest minds in gold in our lifetime, in my history, I'm going to read one little section he writes about gold at the end of his book. It says, throughout history, from the days of the pharaohs down to Mr. Baker, Howard Baker, under Reagan, gold has always been man's best protection against dishonest government management. Gold is money. Gold has always been victorious over feudal, wasteful governments' attempts to dethrone it. The history of man's attempts to conquer gold is fascinating to read, but in the end, gold always wins because gold is the master. That's true. They don't dive in the ocean for paper. They dive for gold. I'm done.
Wes, that's all. Wes?
That's all. Well, like Michael said, everything they talked about in that video, Brandon, how long have we been talking about those issues for? Those things, de-dollarization. Gold is popular around the world. Other countries, people in other countries, I'm sure they're just as frustrated with their fiat currencies and their government's out of control government spending, and gold has become money again. And so when you transfer your hard-earned U.S. dollars that our government is destroying the value of, devaluing, you have that physical gold and silver. No matter what happens to the dollar, what you have in gold and silver, you've protected your wealth. You're going to be able to maintain your purchasing power. And the beauty of that is they replace the dollar with, it doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be a digital currency, but let's say it's not. No matter what it is, you will be able to exchange your gold and silver on your terms as you need it for that new currency. You're not exposed on the grid all at once. Keep your wealth in gold and silver, convert 3 or 4 months worth at a time into this new funny money, because you're going to need that money to pay your health insurance, car insurance, whatever bills you have, but you're not exposed. All of your wealth is not, you need to get it off the grid and outside of the traditional system. And I wanted to share that video tonight so people can see other folks, that gentleman's from the World Gold Council, other people talking about what we've been saying for months. Anyone that's been considering getting into physical gold and silver, you are not too late. This is the time to do your due diligence, do your homework, reach out to Michael and I to get your questions and concerns addressed while there's still time, because things could happen very, very quickly.
Oh,
so this
yes.
is to be proactive. Yep.
Yes. And in fact, put up the number if you guys don't mind. I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. That's the disclaimer. Do your own due diligence. It starts with getting a free packet of information on putting gold into your portfolio, whether that's bullion, numismatic, 1933 and older, that provides privacy, or putting gold into your IRA. You might want to check on all that right away. By the way, we also have received reports tonight. Talk about anything can happen at any time. I mean, all the signs are there, folks. All the signs are there if you just read them. Well, of course, that's why you watch this broadcast in Brandon House Live and Worldview Report, because we do all the homework for you. That's our job. That's what you expect from us. That's why many of you support us. Look at this article right here. Zero Hedge. It's spreading. America's top oil field terrorized by armed Venezuelan gangs. It's only going to get worse from here as the Biden-Harris administration's disastrous open border policies have now come to a neighborhood near you, for some of you. In the past week, we saw armed Venezuelan prison gang members terrorize the northern Denver suburb of Aurora and other sanctuary cities run by far-left Democrats. New concerns out Thursday afternoon indicate critical infrastructure is now under threat from migrant cartel members. According to Libs of TikTok, a Texas-based oil and gas company issued a memo to employees informing them that police and FBI have warned armed Cuba and Venezuelan migrant gangs are committing thefts in the Permian Basin, which is America's highest producing oil field. Oh my, I wonder who could be directing these guys to do this. Oh, I don't know, maybe as Colonel John Mills said the other night, China? You know, Dana Carvey used to say, Satan? It's China. That's who's doing a lot of this. You just chuckled. You remember that, don't you, Wes?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, church lady. It's China, folks. They want to say Russia, 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 Russia. No, China, 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 China. That's what's going on here. And what are they going after? Energy. Do we all depend on oil, energy, fossil fuel? Yes. What are they going after potentially? The power grid. Kash Patel, who is inside the intelligence arena for President Trump in the White House. What is he out talking about? The power grid and how concerned he is going up to the election. So when Wes Peters says anything can happen at any time, I hate to say this, but there are going to be a lot of people saying, I waited too late.
I thought you were going to say, I hate to say he was right.
Oh, well, that too. But anyway, that's all. That's all.
I'll take my line.
Selling frenzy. You don't need unrealized gain tax. Just lifting capital gains will unleash hell. Tell us about this, please, Wes.
The good old selling frenzy. Yes. So good old Kamala proposes capital gains to 28%. This is already going on in the UK, where they're talking about raising their capital gains tax, and wealthy investors are saying, okay, if you're going to tax me to death, you didn't put up any of the money, take any of the risk, none of the liability, but you want to get your hand in my pocket for 28%. You know, they're liquidating their positions out of the market before those taxes go up, and that's exactly what's going to happen here if Kamala gets anywhere near the White House. Let's see what else was in that article. There's a number of different things that they're talking about in the article, but for example, the UK, their current rates on residential property gains in the UK is 24%, gains from chargeable assets 20%, gains from carried interest in a managed investment fund is 28% is what they're at. And we have to pray that Donald Trump gets in the White House, because higher taxes is not the solution for this out of control government spending and waste.
No, it's sure not. All right, here's the next one. ADP employment report, weakest since January 2021. Now, here's what the idiots in Washington and people like Dumb and Dumber don't understand, because neither one of them has ever run a business. When you have weak unemployment reports, that means people aren't working. I know you get that, folks, but that's probably way too deep for Kamala. And when people aren't working, they're not making money. When they're not making money, they're not paying taxes. And what did Ronald Reagan say? And even JFK, cut the tax rate, free up capital. People get hired because the business owners and the entrepreneurs, and the biggest employer is who? Small business, family businesses. Free up the capital, they expand their business, hire people, and more people are paying taxes when we cut the tax rate to free up the capital to go to work. Voila, but don't expect Dumb and Dumber to get this. Right, Wes? Michael?
Absolutely. They're not going to get it. It's just like his family. They all are wearing Trump T-shirts because they know him. He's an idiot and a liar and a cheat.
He is literally the family idiot. He's the family idiot, and they all know it. They know it.
And the wife, his mother, doesn't like her. I mean, it's these people are
his
just...
mother-in-law? His own mother-in-law doesn't like him?
Mother. She came out and said her daughter is a real piece of work. What a lovely family arena that we have going on here. One of the things when we're talking about all these lies and insanity going on in this country right now, and misinformation, goes back again to my little Bible. Governments and corporations prefer to hide the truth. The debasement of statistics are part of the whole scheme, the debasement of currencies, and how people are told lies. For one thing, they fudge the numbers. 1979. They change them, and then they change them again, and then they come back and change them again. But they always start out great.
Yep.
What a bunch of garbage. This is exactly what's been going on. This deep state has been around, and we've got to get Donald Trump to get rid of these people and the Department of Education. And I want to say one little last word. I want to reach out to my dear buddy out there that you're supposed to know, Brandon. His name is Double Nickel Floyd. Hi to you, Floyd.
There you go. That's all. That's all. Look at this headline. I got to go. Celebrity real estate agent gives reality check on housing. We are not going to see prices go down. No, not when you're flooding the country with so many people that need housing and inflation is kicking in. No. Take care. Tonight on the Worldview Report, a mass shooting at a high school in Georgia was still an active crime scene when Joe Biden immediately used the tragedy to call for more gun control. Russia unleashes